It's time for Health Check with Heidi Godman, a daily dose of health and wellness information. Call or text Heidi your questions at 373-1220. That's 373-1220. And now here's Heidi Godman.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Health Check. I'm Heidi Godman. Hope you're doing well on this wonderful day. Happy February, everybody. Cannot believe that February is already here. It just goes by so quickly. And since it's February, you know what happens in February, Valentine's Day. So we thought it would be a lot of fun to talk about ways that you can get ready for your big Valentine's date. Maybe you and your sweetheart are going to do something special or just spend the night in, but you might want to look your best for your someone special. So we have invited Dr. Manjula Jegasothy back to the program. She's the founder of the Miami Skin Institute. She's an aesthetic dermatologist. So as we get older, we might get thinner lips. Does that affect us with any function?
That's why so many women come to me for lip enhancement.
Mm-hmm. And then what about those lines that we tend to get around our lips as we get older? Tell us about those.
Yes, and so many people blame themselves when they have those. I smoked for a few years when I was young, but it's more than that for the most part. It's not just, we call them smoker's lines, but really it has a lot to do with how you enunciate. I think there are certain languages and certain dialects where there are more sounds where you have to purse your lips. I think the Romance languages, Italian, Spanish, and French, have more of that, and so people who speak those languages tend to see more of these lines.
I never thought of that. Okay, and then what about just doing things like sipping soda, or hopefully not soda, sipping tea through a straw?
Yeah, I certainly think it depends on how you sip you can sip out of a straw without pursing your lips. So, I certainly always use a straw because I don't like to get my lipstick or my lip gloss on the glass. And a lot of women feel the same way. If you sip through the straw without pursing your lips, then you shouldn't have an issue with those lines because of that.
But if you don't, might they make them worse?
Absolutely. I do think, though, that, if you're talking about actual time doing any particular thing, we certainly spend a lot more time enunciating and speaking than we do ever sipping through a straw.
Sure.
And that's why I think smoking is an issue, because the people who smoke spend a lot of their day smoking.
Sure. Or whistling, I guess. Okay, so we want to talk about the good news here, because there are different things that you can do to plump those lips back up. And I think one thing people might be a little wary of would be some of those Hollywood types where you see they have enormous lips and it just looks like they almost have a duck bill. So tell us about some of the options and how we can avoid that result.
Sure. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of the early work with lip enhancement was done, I hate to say it, but by male doctors who didn't really appreciate what it was that women wanted when they wanted their lips enhanced. They're not that they thought they just wanted them really big, and not just that they wanted them to have what they had before when they were younger. And then also the techniques have changed a lot. That duck lip you're talking about came from a technique that was widely publicized when collagen was first approved now 20 years ago, where they taught all the doctors simply to inject on the line of the lip. And we're, in the last probably 10 years, we've become a lot more sophisticated than that, where we know to inject on the sort of inside of the lip, on the actual body of the lip, or on where the dry part of the lip meets the wet part of the mouth. It's called the wet-dry border. And so if you inject in those places, you can evert the lip in a very subtle and natural way without ever giving somebody that sticking out duck bill appearance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are you injecting in there? Is it primarily Botox?
No. So it's filler.
Botox goes around the mouth, right?
Yeah, Botox goes into those lines, those smoker's lines is one way of getting rid of them when they're very slight. But when smoker's lines are very deep and when the lip needs to be made fuller, it's always filler.
Okay.
And that the reason being is that you can't use too much Botox at any given time around the mouth because that will compromise the function of the mouth. So you have to be very careful and go to an experienced injector if you're even thinking about doing any Botox around your mouth, because that can definitely cause you, if you get too much or in the wrong places, it can cause you to slur your speech or drool, or even one side can get weaker than the other, and all kinds of things that are A, not only not attractive, but B, medically not very good. So to try to avoid that. But the most popular filler, I would say right now, in the lips is Restylane or Perlane. Perlane has just gotten renamed to Restylane Lift in order to compete in the cheek market, which is probably a topic for another day. But I still like to use both of those products. They have a very nice natural look, and they don't last excessively long in case you don't love the result. And also, there's an enzyme that any expert aesthetic dermatologist has in their office, so that if you don't love your result or you want it tweaked a little bit, I can always do that. It's kind of like sculpting.
All right. And what are these fillers made of?
They are hyaluronic acid. As I mentioned before, collagen was the first of the fillers approved in the U.S. about 20 years ago. And as we all know, collagen is a component of normal skin and tissue, as is hyaluronic acid. They are probably present in almost equal parts, along with elastin in the skin and soft tissue. So all of these are things that are normal components of the skin. The most popular fillers now across the board in the U.S., whether it's Juvederm or Voluma or Restylane, Perlane, Belotero, they're all made of hyaluronic acid.
Okay, so hyaluronic acid, and you put it in. How many injections are we talking about?
It depends. If somebody wants a plumper lip throughout the extent of the lip, meaning from corner to corner, that might be 4 or 5 injections on the upper and 4 or 5 on the lower. A lot of times what people want is that they're finding that the central portion of their mouth is caving in more than the sides, and so they want that pout or that sort of pretty little bow-shaped mouth restored. And so that requires only 4 injections, 2 on the upper and 2 on the lower lip. So most people don't find it really terribly painful after they've done it the first time.
And then how long will these fillers last?
We used to say, and the FDA has given them approval to say about 6 months. But most of my patients, if they get a decent amount, meaning probably more than a half cc of filler into their lips, I'm seeing results lasting almost up to a year.
Goodness, that's a long time. I mean, longer than getting Botox in your forehead or something like that.
Certainly. Filler lasts usually twice as long, maybe 3 times as long as Botox. And in younger people, it's even longer than that.
Terrific. And are younger people doing this?
Yeah, so it's funny because we were talking about, the people who are seeing their lips cave in as sort of, that's one demographic I'm seeing, and it used to be maybe 90% of the people who would get their lips done with me, but now it's probably only about 50% of the people that I see. The other 50% are young women in the, 19 to 30-year-old age range, where a lot of younger celebrities got their lips enhanced when they were very young, and it sort of became that's how they look. They changed their face forever. And I'm seeing a lot of young women, particularly actresses, models, people in the entertainment industry, who get their lips enhanced at an early age to have a fuller lip on their face and to look really for feature enhancement, to be more, quote, beautiful, and they then continue that throughout life.
All right. And do you notice a difference in your lips when you're using them? I mean, if you're kissing someone or if you're eating or speaking, do you notice a difference if you have these plumper lips?
Only for the first week, which is why I thought it would be good to have this show on the 1st of February. If you were thinking about having a fuller lip for kissing someone on Valentine's Day, you need to really think about doing it this week.
Prepare in advance, absolutely. And now let's talk about price, Manjula, because, I mean, this sounds really good for someone who's thinking about it, but what about a typical price range, no matter where you live?
Okay, so I think that when it's the first time you're thinking about making your lips a little fuller, you should go with the half cc of filler. And currently in the United States, the only product that comes in a half cc size is Restylane. And Restylane will make, in the first week when you're swollen, your lips will be about 40% larger than they were. But then after the swelling goes down, they're about 20% larger than they were. Typically, Restylane, a half cc, costs anywhere from between $400 to $500. If you want to go for a full cc, the first time you ever do it, I still recommend maybe doing a half cc, waiting for the swelling to go down after a week or so, and then getting the other half, so that you don't get a full cc put into your lips at once and it really swells a lot in those first 2 days, because that can be a little bit disconcerting and even frightening. And if you live with somebody who is not used to this or not particularly in tune with you're getting this, then that swelling can be something that sort of puts them off for a long time.
Sure.
So a full CC is generally anywhere from $700 to $900.
And you might just have to do it once a year, and that might be something that's worth it to you if you're interested in changing the appearance of your lips. But what about, are there any complications?
The two most common complications are just what we know to be side effects of getting this done. One is swelling, and everybody swells. So again, I never tell people to get it done, right before they have an important event or a photo session or photo shoot or, an important date or something like that. And that swelling typically lasts between 3 and 7 days. The other side effect, which we see when you put a needle into somebody's skin anywhere, they can possibly get a bruise. And that can be exacerbated if they've taken aspirin or Aleve or Advil in the week before they get the injection. So that's another thing. Other than that, it's very safe in the lips. There's not many other structures that are an issue. Since filler just literally goes in and takes up, fills in the space and makes it bigger, you don't have any of the neuromotor issues you might have if you get too much Botox around the mouth.
Okay, terrific. Well, that's very good to know, but we want to know much more. Need to take a quick break, though, so everybody please stick around. More with aesthetic dermatologist Dr. Manjula Jegasothy in just a minute. This is Health Check with Heidi Godman on WSRQ. Welcome back to Health Check. I'm Heidi Godman. If you are just joining us, my guest today is Dr. Manjula Jegasothy. She is a very well-trained, Harvard and Yale-trained aesthetic dermatologist. And she's the founder of the Miami Skin Institute, and we are talking all about things we can do to get ready for our big Valentine's Day date, or just, things in general that you'd like to do to feel better about the way you look. We've been talking about lips and different injections you can get, or maybe Botox or around the outside of your lips or fillers in the lips. But there's something you could do that doesn't involve any injections. It's just temporary. But Manjula, tell us about lip plumpers.
Sure. There are certain serums available widely, and certainly at Sephora. The one I like the best is called City Lips, CITYLIPS. And it's just a serum that you put on your lips over your lipstick or gloss, and it causes a mild temporary reaction that causes a little bit of swelling in the lips and makes them plumper for about an hour or two.
Does that hurt?
It's funny. It stings a little for the first 2 minutes, and then it just feels like your lips are a little bit bigger.
All right.
You might feel that.
That's interesting. And then there's this new trend in makeup, since we're talking about makeup now, that seems to be catching on among young people, iridescent makeup. What is that about?
So the prototype for this was called BB cream, and it's very popular amongst makeup artists first, and then it became popular all over the entertainment industry. They're either creams or powders that you can apply underneath your foundation to bring out certain facial features or to minimize certain features. So let's say you think your nose is too big, then you would put some on the sides of your nose, and that makes the bridge of your nose appear narrower. Or let's say that you feel like you have a weak chin. So if you put some iridescence on below in that space between your lower lip and your chin, that'll sort of bring out your chin. Same thing with your eyes. If you want more, you put more shine on your brow bone, and that's an old eyeshadow trick. It'll make your eyes stand out more.
Now, how does that work with your nose? I mean, are we just talking about it's a reflective sort of appearance, and then you don't see as wide a nose? What is it?
Exactly. So it's reflecting light off the sides of the bridge of the nose, and that makes the entire bridge appear thinner.
Okay, we're talking the bridge or the bulbous part of the nose?
The bridge. The bridge. If you put some near the nostrils, then you can also make them appear thinner as well. We haven't figured out a good way to hide the bulb of the nose.
Right. Well, let me know when you do. Yeah. Hey, so where do you get this stuff?
BB cream is available at every department store and at Sephora. There are so many others. There are drugstore brands of iridescent makeup that I've seen. CoverGirl makes it. Almay makes it in the drugstores. There's a nice anti-aging line that doctors are selling now called Glow Biotics, which is by a company called My Body, where they have a little bit of retinol and vitamin C along with the glow cream. So you're getting a little bit of anti-aging when you do your makeup as well.
Mm-hmm. And what can you expect to pay for something like this if you just go to a drugstore?
Between probably around $15, maybe $15 to $20.
And what about for the lip plumpers too?
Around $15.
15. Okay, so if you have a special date, you could do it. But again, I'm sure you would advise that everybody tries it out in advance of the big day.
Yes, definitely, because you never know what you're allergic to. So try it out on the inside of your arm, which is considered the most sensitive skin in the body. And if you don't get a reaction after 24 hours, you're probably good to go for the face.
That is a really good point that you might have an allergic reaction. How often do you see people who do get allergic reactions, not just to these types of products, but others?
Often. I mean, I'd say at least 5 or so patients a week.
Okay, who have allergic reactions. Well, all of this is really great to know, and if we want to know more about you, Manjula, and what you do over at the Miami Skin Institute, tell us about all the many ways we can find out.
Absolutely. I'd love you to come see my website with my before and after pictures at miamiskininstitute.com. We also support several blogs. Please join us on Google+. You can be our friends just like on Facebook. We also have a business Facebook page and a Twitter feed if you don't want to read too much and want to get the information quickly. It's at Miami Skin Ins for Twitter.
Fantastic. And what about you have a way to listen to our interviews, too?
That's right. We have a podcast channel that's Miami Skin Institute on Podomatic.com, and I think we're going to be getting an iTunes podcast channel in the next week or so as well, and you can listen to all of our radio shows together.
Yeah, you are so media savvy. I absolutely love that, and everybody also want to let you know that you can also check out the WSRQ website, SarasotaTalkRadio.com, to hear our program and also all of the wonderful programs that are generated out of the studios here at WSRQ here on the Suncoast. Okay, fantastic. Well, Manjula, please stick around. And everybody, again, if you want to check her out, it's MiamiSkinInstitute.com. But we have so much more to talk about. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what to do about bags under your eyes and also how to make your skin just gorgeous and glow for your big Valentine's Day date. But first, news and weather. This is Health Check with Heidi Godman on WSRQ. Welcome back to Health Check. I'm Heidi Godman. We are talking about how to spruce up in advance of Valentine's Day today, and we are chatting with Dr. Manjula Jegasothy. She's an aesthetic dermatologist from the Miami Skin Institute, which she founded, and we've been talking about how to look better, plump up your lips, or use iridescent makeup, or do any of these different things. But something we also want to talk about would be your skin. And, you know, the skin, it says so much about you. It's your largest organ. And if you have healthy, glowing skin, that's appealing to everyone, no matter what your age. And Manjula, tell us about the common problems we experience with our skin, no matter what the age.
Sure. I think, you know, the first is blotchiness, which can be characterized by brown spots or red spots spots or just things that sort of give us a non-homogeneous, smooth, porcelain-like appearance to the skin. And those can be caused by, different conditions, acne or even rosacea or even excess sun exposure. As we get older, unfortunately, the skin cells themselves don't turn over as rapidly as they did when we were young. So there's a buildup of dead skin on our face, on places like our hands, our elbows, our knees, and especially our feet. And that can give a dull appearance to the skin, so it doesn't glow. And in addition, as we all know, it can give us calluses and things like that on the other body parts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we do not want to have that kind of skin. And let's specifically talk about the face, then we can move to other body parts. What can we do to make our faces so beautiful skin-wise?
Sure. I think that anybody really above the age of 15 to 18 can benefit from a very light fruit acid chemical peel once in a while. And by once in a while, I'd say in your 20s, maybe once or twice a year. In your 30s, 3 times a year. And beyond, I'd say probably quarterly. And you can certainly do the light ones at home, but most people who've tried the light ones at home feel like they're not really worth their time. If you don't have the budget, however, they're certainly better than doing nothing. If you go to a well-trained dermatologist's office that specializes in aesthetic dermatology, nowadays we can tailor the peels to your individual skin needs and to your individual skin type and coloring and sun exposure and social plans and all of those things so that you don't have to look at all beat up and you don't have any kind of recovery before looking better. So that's kind of the goal of modern peels now. They work at the cellular level to help all of those things.
So how does it work? Someone comes and says, I just want to get a more of a glowing look on my face. I think I need to exfoliate and get rid of all these cells on top of the skin. And you say, okay, well, maybe a peel is going to be good for you. What can you expect?
So essentially, the person tells us, I just want my skin to look better, is what they usually say. And so then I based on what they have on their skin, if their pores are big, I pick a certain thing. If they have fine lines, I pick something else. If they're very dehydrated, I pick another kind of fruit acid. And so we layer them and we combine them in different sections of the face. I have usually either my facialist or my medical assistant actually applies the solution, which is just a very thin, watery type solution. Because they are acids, they have an acidic or low pH, so they do sting a little while they are on the skin. That's normal. It's not excessive, and it's not something certainly that would make you be worried about it. And then we have them after a certain amount of time, again, while watching them closely for changes. Generally, when we start seeing them becoming a little red, we have them rinse it off with water. Water neutralizes all of these acids. And then I tell patients they're generally going to be red for a few hours, so they probably shouldn't go out that night. It's nice if they could not put on makeup until they wake up the next morning, because that gives their skin a chance to actually breathe and the pores to, really be open and not clogged and all of that stuff before they cover their face again in makeup. And then that's it. You might experience a little sunburn-type flaking on days 3 or 4. If you have an actual issue like acne, we extract the clogged pores. So those clogged pores might be a little bit sensitive, and they might peel a little bit more than just a normal person getting a beautifying peel.
Mm-hmm. But how much skin loss are we talking about when you do get that flaking?
Tiny little bits of flaking. Not, you know how when you get a sunburn, like your shoulders flake a little, even though you got the sunburn on your whole back?
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
Okay.
So it's just like a few small areas, maybe, and just, an inch squared at a time. That's it.
And then you're removing all the dead skin and just getting a healthy layer of fresh-looking skin?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And how much does that run?
$90 to $150.
Okay, depending on where you go and the kind of peel that you need. And should you go in saying you want how do you describe it? I mean, a fruit peel, a chemical peel? What do you say?
Yes, we usually say chemical peels, although the word chemical has such a bad connotation these days. Most people don't know to say a fruit acid peel, but for the most part, that's what all of these are. They're acids derived from different sort of fruits. They don't get them from the fruit. They make them synthetically, but they are found in fruits like citric acid, even glycolic acid, tartric acid. They're all found in fruits.
Okay, and then what if you wanted to do this, but just, go to a drugstore and get something that might also have an exfoliating effect?
As I said, I think that most of them require too much work for it to be worthwhile for you to get the same results as you get in the 10-minute in-office peel. But certainly if your budget doesn't allow for the in-office peel, if you did one of those home peels maybe twice a week and you left it on your face while watching TV or something for half an hour or so, then I think you would notice a difference.
Okay. All right. Are there any brands in particular to look for?
I certainly like all of the Neutrogena products. I always recommend them because I know they've been clinician tested and they're safe, and the FDA generally approves them all. So a Neutrogena peel, they have them, the at-home peels. And there's a company now, actually, I was saying, that does feet peels. It's called Babyfoot, and it's been pretty thoroughly investigated, and the people seem to like it. It's available only online. It's called Babyfoot.
Babyfoot. All right. And what does Babyfoot do?
Babyfoot is an actual sock that you put on your feet, socks, and you wear them for 2 to 3 hours, and it has a fairly high % glycolic acid and a couple of other patented acids, so they don't tell us everything. But you wear it 2 to 3 hours, and then you take it off, and then you wash your feet. And over the course of the next week or so, little pieces of skin sort of exfoliate off your feet. And for the next month or so, you have very soft, much less calloused feet than before. I do find that it's great to do it, for example, right after you've gotten a pedicure, so that the pedicurist has done much of the work of getting the calluses off, but then this goes one step further.
Terrific. All right. Baby sock. That's an option. And what about if you felt that you had some calluses or skin elsewhere in your body where you wanted some exfoliation and what you're doing at home isn't working? Can you help in that regard?
Yes, a lot of the much stronger peels that we reserve for very light-skinned patients or people that don't have a lot of sun damage can be used on the body, and they're very effective on the body. And on the body, you can probably wear it home and shower it off the next day, and you'll get a good benefit and good exfoliation. And again, you'll notice the little bits of skin peeling off on day 3 or 4 after the peel.
Okay, so all of these sound like you should give them about a week to work.
Yes, that's why we had this week.
That's why we're talking about it today, 2 weeks before Valentine's Day. Everybody start thinking about what you can do now to look a little bit better. And meantime, we also want to find out about what we can do for those under-eye bags or dark circles. They're two very different things, and we're going to talk about that, but we need to take a quick break. So everybody stick around. More with Dr. Manjula Jegasothy in just a second. This is Health Check with Heidi Godman on wonderful WSRQ. Welcome back to Health Check. I'm Heidi Godman. We have been talking this hour with Dr. Manjula Jegasothy, a Miami dermatologist. She's an aesthetic dermatologist and the founder of the Miami Skin Institute. We've been having a lot of fun planning how we're all going to spruce up for our big Valentine's Day date, whether it's with just your special someone or your whole family. You take out the kids or whatever you plan to do. If you want to look your best, there are lots of ways you can do it. And Manjula has been telling us about things we can do for our skin and lips and different makeup we can do. And I love it because she tells us about what we can do at a dermatologist's office or just go in the drugstore and look for certain products. So we want to spend our last minutes with Manjula today talking about the eyes, because as you were saying at the beginning of the program, Manjula, our eyes are very important to our looks. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, even younger people, sometimes the under eye area can be a problem. Tell us about it.
Certainly. The under-eye circles have been the bane of my existence, for example. I'm of Indian subcontinent descent, and I think the place we age first is in the eyelid skin, and we get dark circles under our eyes. So they can be caused by a variety of factors. In young women, excess rubbing or being too harsh with the skin when we take off and put on our makeup can cause the fragile capillaries in that skin to break, and then that causes a darkness from that blood, from that, so it's almost like a chronic bruise. Another thing is just the act of rubbing can cause the skin to kind of thicken, and that can cause a dark circle. And then as we get older, some people genetically tend to hollow out underneath the eye area. And that kind of eye hollowing, we call it the tear trough. That's the trough in which the tear goes and settles when you cry. That basically can cause the light to reflect in the wrong direction off the under eye and cause it to look even darker.
I think I'm getting that. I think I'm just starting to. But I know women who got that at a very young age, like in college.
Yes, I had it in college.
I mean, why does it occur sometimes in youth as opposed to older age?
A couple of factors. One is genetic. It just depends on how far or how big your eye socket is. If the bone, if the actual hole where your eyeball sits is very large and your eyeball itself is small, then you're going to get a lot of hollowing there, even as a young person. And then as you get older, everyone's bones kind of get, as you know, smaller and more brittle. And so part of that is, and that's also part of the issue with why the lips cave in, is our very bones are actually kind of resorbing and shrinking. And so that causes all these oral, the openings to orifices to become bigger. And so that's what causes the hollowing under the eyes to become more pronounced as we age and can start early.
All right. Well, I want to talk about these two very different issues, the under eye dark circles and then the bags under the eye. You know, some people, It just looks like they have little pillows under there.
They're two different things anatomically, but they're actually caused by the same process. This bony resorption or bony remodeling or bone shrinking of the orbit, the bone around the eye, causes the hollowing. But then also, God gave us basically this under eye fat pad which cushions the eye. Every single person has it. It cushions the eyeball in the eye socket, so it doesn't. So it's protected. Now, as the bone starts resorbing and that fat pad stays in place, it starts looking like it's protruding. Even though it's really staying in place, everything else is kind of moving backward.
All right.
So that's what the cause of an under-eye bag is. And again, some people have that much earlier in life than others. I certainly have friends who've had it since they were 31 or 32, and other people start getting it in their 40s and 50s. And that's just protrusion of the under-eye fat pad. As we get older, into our 50s and 60s, one thing that happens also is that the tendons that hold the eyeball in place, the globe it's called, they actually loosen. And unfortunately, so your eye actually falls backward into the socket also. And that's what causes a lot of reading difficulties and things like that, is the actual position of your eye and your head has changed as you've gotten older. And that causes the fat pad to seem to have protruded further forward as well, even though it's really the only thing that stayed in place.
All right. So is there anything that you can do without surgery to minimize the look of that protruding fat pad?
The protruding fat pad has been something that we've tried to treat for ages without doing surgery. Currently, if you have a big fat pad and it's very noticeable, I still recommend going to a good plastic or facial plastic surgeon and get a procedure, what's called a blepharoplasty with fat pad removal, where they take the excess skin that's over that fat pad and remove the fat pad as well. More recently, we've been experimenting with some injectables. The enzyme that melts the hyaluronic acid we spoke about earlier, it's called hyaluronidase. So there have been some studies to show that can temporarily shrink the fat pad. Just a couple of drops of that injected into the fat pad can make it much smaller for about 3 to 4 months. We're the very first data with the injectable fat reduction medicine, Kybella, injected into that fat pad is also coming out. That may be something that might be a more long-term fix. The issue now is that when you first inject it, it becomes much, much larger. It swells to about 2 to 3 times in size. And so if you have that kind of recovery for a week or so, some people are just like, I might as well get it taken out completely, you know?
Sure, yeah. All right, but now let's switch and talk about the dark circles under your eyes. I mean, I think we see tons of magazine articles all about, or ads saying, oh, use this cream or that cream and it'll get rid of under eye circles. That doesn't seem to be true.
If your under eye circles are due to the capillary issue or rubbing, you change behavior. You should always be gentle to your eyelid skin, thinnest on your body. And then obviously if you have hollowing that's due to the bone, resorbing, then that is the perfect situation to get injectable fillers. And again, I recommend either Restylane or Belotero because they have a very low viscosity and sit very well in that area. And you need to go to an aesthetic physician who's very expert in injecting the under eyes. And believe it or not, there are not many nerve endings there, so it's actually it's the least painful place on the face to get an injection. And you can fill that tear trough, we call it, very easily, and have that whole area look like as if it has been filled and lightened.
Okay, so what about any side effects with this? Because I know sometimes with some surgeries, such as blepharoplasty, whether it's an upper blepharoplasty or the lower one, that can cause dry eye. What about getting injections?
No, if basically you should go to someone, as I said, who's expert in this, so they don't go near any tear duct or they don't go near any important blood vessels. It's actually a fairly safe space if the doctor knows where they're injecting. And again, please don't have this done by anyone other than a physician. But yes, it's a fairly safe space, so the only thing that could happen is mild to moderate swelling in the week after. I tell people to restrict their salt intake and to sleep with their head slightly propped up on an extra pillow or two for a couple of nights, and that reduces water retention and improves the drainage of the fluid from the eye area so that you don't get too much swelling from the filler. And other than that, if a little bit of bruising maybe, but if you're having this issue, it's generally an area that you use concealer on anyway. So most people are used to concealing that skin, so generally most people don't have a problem if they get a little bit of bruising there.
And then how long would that last? Just a week or so?
No, the long term, the side effects are short term. A week. If you get a bigger bruise, it might at the outside last 10 days. The nice thing about getting filler under your eyes is the average person has it last 2 years. Some people have it last 4 or 5 years or even sometimes don't ever need it to be done at all.
Oh my goodness. All right. So then how much does this run no matter where you're going in the country?
Again, around a half cc of Restylane, which is what I recommend for your first time to see how you do with it, would be between 400 and 600. And if you're an experienced, if you've had it done before and you need it done again because you have pretty deep under eye circles or hollowing, then 1 cc may be anywhere from $600 to $900. One thing I did want to say was if you have the mild under-eye bags or the fat pads protruding, the common model's trick that's been there since the 1970s is actually Preparation H, the hemorrhoid cream. It's a really great temporary shrinker of the under-eye fat pads, and models and entertainment people have used it for, like I said, decades for a quick 2 or 3 hour improvement in your eyelid appearance.
It sounds horrible, though. I mean, just the idea of it. But I have heard of that, too. And then I guess there's good old-fashioned cucumber slices, but that really is not for what we are talking about. That's more like for the morning puffiness. Yeah. All right. Well,
we're talking about a real fix.
Yes. And I like it that some of these fixes could be really long-lasting without having to get surgery. So I want to thank you so much for all of this wonderful advice to help us prepare for our big Valentine's event. And again, get it done sooner than later because you might have some side effects. And so that's really great. And if we want to know more about what you're suggesting or filling us in on, how do we find out what you do and where we can go to get more of your information?
Sure. I'm available widely online. You can Google my name, Dr. Manjula Jegasothy, at Miami Skin Institute. The website is miamiskininstitute.com. My Google Plus blog pages and my WordPress blog pages are Miami Skin Institute, and my Twitter handle is at Miami Skin Ins.
Wonderful. All right. Always fun to talk to you, Manjula. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Heidi. And one thing I wanted to say is Valentine's Day is really for yourself, too. You know, you're your own best Valentine. Looking good is also for yourself.
That is a very good point. All right. Well, happy Valentine's Day to you, and we'll talk soon.
You too, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Heidi Godman. My producer is the wonderful J.R. Hansen, and you've been listening to Health Check with Heidi Godman on WSRQ. Talk to you tomorrow.